All right, so Democrats are saying that we cannot give in to fear. Don't give in to fear is what Democrats are saying now. That's the big message. Or bigotry. Fear or bigotry. Don't give in to fear. At the very same time, by the way, they say that free speech is too dangerous. I want you to think about this. Democrats say don't give in to fear. At the very same time, they say that free speech is too dangerous. Is that something? That is really something. That's another hallmark of Omerica, incidentally. That is a hallmark of Omerica. There's so much going on that I need to share with you. Do you know that the Paris climate change talks occurred? And 190 some countries, I believe it is, got together and decided that they were going to stop the world from global warming. And they have introduced an 85-year plan. An 85-year plan is what they have introduced. Now, I got to tell you something. Even Stalin limited his plans to 5 years. Did you know that? Even Stalin limited his plans to just 5 years. It's an 85-year plan. And I saw somebody herald it as a great success to conscious capitalism. Now, if you're watching on Fox 28, WPGX, or on YouTube, I have another little camera right in front of me that I had to change. It's the Periscope camera. And so I'm kind of messing around with the angle on the Periscope camera. But I want you to know that you can participate live on Periscope. If you go to the Periscope app and download it, you can participate live on the show. The phone number is 850-252-8260 if you want to join us. 850-252-8260 is the number. Little different camera for Periscope. But we're going to do about a 30-minute segment and then another 30-minute segment. And I want you to join me if you want to. Look at Donald Trump again. I'll tell you what, there is great fear among the GOP establishment. Should there be? Should there be fear among the GOP establishment from Donald Trump and you know who else? Ted Cruz. I have this theory, and it's pure conjecture. I normally don't operate on just pure conjecture, but right now I've got a prediction. I get this feeling that Donald Trump at the last minute is going to hand off he's going to endorse Ted Cruz. I just have a feeling about this. Or perhaps he taps Ted Cruz to be his VP. Incidentally, Ted Cruz is eligible to be VP. He is. You do not have to be a natural born citizen to be the vice president of the United States. Did you know that? But you do have to be a natural born citizen to be the president of the United States. So, hey, by the way, the YouTube is streaming live, and that's got a pretty good. That's got a whole different shot of the studio. And if you want to go to YouTube, or if you want to watch the show live during the day, if you're watching in the morning on Fox 28 WPGX, and you want to watch the show live and participate, just go to YouTube and subscribe to the channel because we stream it live on YouTube. Did you know that? We stream it live and we scream sometimes on YouTube. If you subscribe to the My Freedom Radio channel, that's the name of our channel, My Freedom Radio. And we do it until the sand is out of the hourglass. And so let's start the. Oh no, really, we have the best technical equipment here. You wouldn't believe it. We're ready to take calls as well. Phone number is 850-252-8260 if you want to join me on the show, if you've got questions or comments about anything. But I saw so much hullabaloo. When's the last time you've heard somebody say that? On Twitter about the Paris climate change agreement. I want to share with you just a little bit. This is from today's USA Today. All right, Paris climate deal, hard work comes next. They are excited. You had world leaders holding hands and raising their hands before they all got back on their planes. Delegates from 195 countries have approved, are you ready for this? One of Obama's favorite words, a historic climate accord that seeks to slow the rise of greenhouse gases. Here's what you need to know about the Paris Climate Agreement. Here, Paris is where the story's out of. First, there were tears. You ready for this? Tears, hugs, and a standing ovation. Oh my God, these guys are really, that greeted approval of a historic international climate deal. Now the world's nations must focus on the nitty-gritty details to implement a complex 31-page plan to limit the rise of global warming this century. This agreement was part of a road through Paris, says Rodney Galicia of the Philippine Environmental Coalition, Action Clima. The world's efforts cannot end here with this deal, right? We've got more to do, all that jazz. The Paris Agreement, the culmination of 4 grueling years of talks. Imagine how grueling it is. To go there, to fly to Paris, oh, it's grueling. It's hard work, man. You leave there with calluses, a sore back. These guys have been working hard on this 85-year plan, which brings me right back to that great political thinker, George Carlin. You remember what George Carlin said? He said he couldn't stand environmentalists. He could not stand the fake white bourgeois liberals who pretend to give a flip about climate and the world, saving the world. He said, what did he say? He said the planet is fine. The people are screwed, is what he said. And I cleaned that up, by the way. He said the planet is fine. It was here before we were, and it'll be here when we're gone. It's the people who are screwed. Can I get an amen? I'm telling you, that deserves an amen right there. He was right about that. In the next few weeks, the agreement will be deposited at the United Nations headquarters in New York. It's the word. Where ambassadors will be asked to sign on behalf of their countries starting in April. After that, at least 55 countries representing at least 55% of the world's greenhouse gas emissions, blamed for global warming, must ratify the deal so it can enter the force by January 1, 2020. Who thinks this has anything to do about saving the world from global warming? Who thinks so? Who thinks that this is really a pretext to tax the producers in the world? Who thinks that this is a pretext to take more money, more wealth out of the hands of the producers and into the coffers of government and into the coffers of these control freaks who pretend to give a flip about rising tides and rising oceans? Who's afraid of rising tides and rising oceans? I'll tell you, the same people who are afraid of the big bad wolf. That is to say, nobody. That's who. Nobody is. You don't know. There's not a Democrat you know who actually is afraid of global warming, of rising tides. I'm telling you, this is an important point. I don't think that any Democrat believes this. They do it because we allow it to happen. They do it because it upsets Republicans. And it's an excuse to tax the ever-living out of the people who earn the money. And there are 2 real ways to get your hands on wealth in this world. And they are what? What are the 2 ways you can get your hands on wealth? You can earn it, right? Or you can take it. And if you want to take it, it helps a lot to be part of a big, giant government organization, doesn't it? It helps to be part of an organization replete and rife, and not only that, full of people with guns and tanks and F-16s and stuff. It helps a lot, by the way. Legal plunder is what Frederick Bastiat called it in that book over my shoulder there, in the book called The Law by Frederick Bastiat. In all, 187 countries have made similar pledges of their own in the lead up to the talks. When Obama addressed the opening of the climate summit, he got to give the opening speech. He said meeting those goals required immediate action, including incentives for renewable energy. You know, like Oh, what was the name of the company? I'm glad I forgot the name of the company. Solyndra. I remembered. It hasn't been long enough. Was there anything at all honest about Solyndra? Are you familiar with Solyndra? Oh my God, it was bad. It was the uh, solar panel company that Obama said represented the future of American economics, of the American economy. And then it went out of business the next year, even after we lavished how much money? God knows, I forgot. I forgot how much money they gave it. But a bunch of people got out of there and lined their pockets while everybody else, lost their jobs, the promises that they were made. Because, I mean, if you can't even stay in business after you are lavished subsidies, then you really suck out loud. I mean, you're worse than anything. Next year, when the climate summit reconvenes in Morocco, right, Casablanca, negotiators will begin to focus on the ratcheting mechanism. The ratcheting mechanism. Doesn't that sound like part of a torture rack? God. The ratcheting mechanism that aims to force countries to reduce their emissions and strengthen other climate initiatives as technology improves and circumstances change. Boy, they want that money, don't they? And they'll say anything to get it. Here's what Kumi Naidu said. He's the executive director of Greenpeace International. Kumi Naidu. Who's heard of Kumi Naidu? Good Lord. He said, in Paris, the human race joined together in a common cause. But what is really important is what countries do after this, says Kumi Naidu. Now, all eyes will be watching because this deal on its own won't dig us out of the hole we're in. Don't they always use the same kind of Bolshevik rhetoric? Right? We can't cut spending. We can't cut our way out of this. You remember that? The deficits and the debt, we can't cut our way out of this. It's kind of like what the Obama administration says about war. We can't win a war by killing them. Only in the era of non sequiturs, only in the age of idiocy could this be said. We now have a commander-in-chief, and we know he is because he says it over and over and over. We now have a commander-in-chief who says we can win a war without killing the other side. Instead, we invite them here. See? We bring them in. And then we say, don't have bigotry in your heart. And everything will be cool in the gang, says Barack Obama. Actually, why am I talking? I'll just let you hear what he has to say. This is part of Barack Obama's weekly address for the American public. You ready for this? I need to get ready for this. This is going to be unbelievable. Listen to this. Barack Obama. Hello, everybody.
Hello, everybody. This week, Americans across our country have shown what it means to be strong in the face of terrorism.
Listen to the hypnotic, extra caring voice. See, I couldn't do it. Listen to my voice. I sound irritated. I sound agitated, but Barack doesn't. Listen to how hypnotic and beautiful. It's almost like namaste. We should start doing that, right? When Barack Obama gives his weekly address is when we should do yoga, right? Namaste. And so when Barack Obama says, come on board, let's support climate change initiatives. Let's bring in the Syrian refugee jihadists. We should just, do yoga. Say namaste, namaste. And for me, that means namaste, my butt right here where it makes more sense is what namaste means to me, okay? You can go and fall for this Bolshevik, but namaste, where it makes sense, is what I may misunderstand what the word means. Listen to Barack Obama, though.
In San Bernardino, even as the community continues to grieve, people are refusing to be ruled by fear. Across the country, dedicated public servants are on the job, and more will be returning to work this week. Faith communities have come together in fellowship and prayer. Families lined the streets for the annual Children's Christmas Parade.
Is it nauseating just for me or for anybody else? Really, truly, the tone and the hypnotic sort of speech patterns in America. I mean, is this makes me sick to my stomach? Is it because? Why? Am I alone? Listen to how much he cares. First president that every single week of his second term there's another gun-free zone shooting. Do you know that there's a big to-do about Sandy Hook? A big giant Sandy Hook trending #1 on Twitter. We got to stop school shootings, right? Which I call gun-free zone shootings. But here's his answer. There are too many gun-free zone shootings, therefore we need more gun-free zones. Only in the era of non sequiturs and only in the age of idiocy could this be said with a man who talks like this, like we're children, and people love it. Nobody believes it. Nobody believes it. If you think your Democrat friends believe this, see, that's where they get you. I've learned this, by the way. Democrats will pretend to believe that global warming is going to cause the rise of oceans and is the greatest danger and all this stuff. They pretend it so that they can argue with you. And then when you get upset, they go drink lattes with their friends and they laugh about how you believe they believed it. Democrats don't believe it. Democrats go for this because they hate Republicans more than they love America, and they go for this because it's the best chance they have to knock down the guy who's more successful next to them. Because with Obama, we can put this non sequitur together with this one, and then we can just tax people and take their stuff. Isn't that fun? Another socialist, what? Bernie Sanders says he's a socialist. Don't look at me. People get mad when I say that. I say that Bernie Sanders is a socialist and they get all upset. Don't call a Democrat a socialist. Bernie Sanders says he's a socialist. Okay? If he says it, I'm a socialist. He self-identifies. You know, kind of like Caitlyn. Or who else? Who are some of the other self-identifiers? I'm going to start self-identifying. All right, listen to Barack Obama. And he's talking about the faith communities and the public servants coming together to make the world a better place for climate change, stuff like that. And people fall for it. Listen.
Because we can't let terrorists change how we live our lives. Meanwhile, our men and
because we can't let terrorists change the way we live our lives. And then he uses that to change the way we live our lives. He has ramped up Homeland Security. He changes the way we live just about every aspect of our life. And then he says we can't let terrorists change the way we live our lives. He frames the discussion and he colors the conversation. And nobody stops him. You know, there were a couple of Republicans in the House who were questioning Homeland Security. And Homeland Security has no idea how many Syrian refugees there are. They have no idea. They can't answer any questions at all. Homeland Security can't answer any questions at all. And the Republicans like Jason Chaffetz, he throws a fit like he cares. But guess what he's going to go back and do? He's going to go back with Speaker Paul Ryan, and he's going to fund every whim of Barack Obama's. Because that's what they do in the House. They don't check him. They don't defund him. Instead, they give him everything he wants, but they put on a show. The political theater in America is in full swing. And you say, yeah, Donald Trump is part of it. I'll say he is. Donald Trump is a big part of it. Do you know Donald Trump is at 41% right now? It's almost as though the more erratic he gets, the more his ratings go up. It's like this confluence of shock television, of reality TV, and of the Donald. I mean, you talk about good timing, right? But again, somebody asked, what do you think about Donald Trump? I always say, compared to what? Right? But you know what Donald Trump is. He's a pendulum swing, is what Donald Trump is. He's the opposite of Obama, just like Obama was the opposite of Bush. And that is to say, mostly the way the public sees him, because if you take a really good look at Obama's foreign policy, it's not that much different than Bush in terms of his military. In fact, he's a little more of a warlord than Bush was. Isn't that something? Except for Obama, along with Congress, funds our enemies. Now we have ISIS, who came out of nowhere. His JV team's all grown up. ISIS is now not only staying in the tents that we gave them, eating the food and the rations that we drop, but now they're riding our tanks around, killing American troops and children. By the way, do you know who Obama's ISILs have declared war against now? Children with Down syndrome. They just murdered 38 children with Down syndrome. And Democrats are absolutely furious about it. They are furious at Republicans. I want you to think about that. ISIS murders 38 children with Down syndrome, and Democrats hate Donald Trump. Is that something? So Obama says we can't allow the terrorists to change the way we live our life, and then he changes every aspect of our life. Only in the era of non sequiturs, only in the age of idiocy could this possibly happen. This is what about 40 years. How long? 35 years maybe of public education, of government schools has given us. Because you have to have that long of government teaching in order for people to really be this into what Obama is saying. I'm sorry, Mr. President, I've been rude to you.
Women in uniform are stepping up our campaign to destroy ISIL. Our airstrikes are hitting ISIL harder than ever.
Do you know why he calls them ISIL? Do you know why? ISIS stands for Islamic State of Iraq and Syria. ISIL stands for Islamic State of Iraq and Levant. Levant is the landmass along the Mediterranean. And it's a bunch of Arab countries and Israel. And it basically does away with Israel as its own. It disregards Israel. It lumps it in. It puts all of them under the Islamic State. It is an underhanded, sly, deceitful salute to ISIS. It's saying that you guys are much bigger than just the Islamic State of Iraq and Syria. You guys are the Islamic State of Iraq and all of Levant. You stand over Israel even. That's why he calls them ISIL. If you don't believe me, just look it up. That's what the Levant is. It's that landmass along the Mediterranean. ISIS, you're so much bigger than ISIS. You're ISIL. You're really big. You stand over Israel. That's what Barack Obama does, and that's why Barack Obama says ISIL. You can be angry at me for telling you this, but I'm telling you the truth. Listen.
In Iraq and Syria. We're taking out more of their fighters and leaders.
I mean, listen
in
to
Iraq
this.
and Syria.
Wait, hold on.
Our men and women in uniform are stepping up our campaign to destroy ISIL. Our airstrikes are hitting ISIL harder than ever in Iraq and Syria.
So he just said he refuses to say Islamic State of Iraq and Syria, which he just says out loud, but instead he says ISIL, which is the Islamic State of Iraq and Levant. So he salutes them, and then he feeds us these lies that he's about to feed us now. That is unbelievable that he gets away with that. Wow. Wow.
We're taking out more of their fighters and leaders, their weapons, their oil tankers. Our special operations forces are on the ground because we're going to hunt down these terrorists wherever they try to hide. In recent weeks, our...
Doesn't that sound like George Bush? Hey, Democrats, remember when you voted for this cat? Hey, Democrats, do you remember when you voted for Obama? And you said he's going to be so much different? He gave a peace prize, right, before he even did anything. And now look at him, talking like George Bush. We're going to hunt them down, right? We're with them. They're either with us or against us, something like that. That is what he just listened to this. This could have come out of the mouth of George W. Bush, but Democrats don't care because Obama can be a warlord or a peacenik. Obama can stand for privacy rights, or he can be the ultimate snoop and peeping Tom with White House spying. Democrats don't care because they'll support anything he does or says. Here is Barack Obama talking like George W. Bush, and Democrats love it because it upsets Republicans.
Leaders, their weapons, their oil tankers. Our special operations forces are on the ground because we're going to hunt down these terrorists wherever they try to hide. In recent weeks, our strikes have taken out the ISIL finance chief, a terrorist leader in Somalia, and the ISIL leader in Libya. Our message to these killers is simple. We will find you, and justice will be done. This week, we'll move forward on all fronts. On Monday, I'll go to the Pentagon, and there I'll review our military campaign and how we can continue to accelerate our efforts. Later in the week, I'll go to the National Counterterrorism Center. There, I'll review our efforts across our entire government to prevent attacks and protect our homeland. And this week, the Department of Homeland Security will update its alert system to ensure Americans get more information, including steps that you and your communities can take to be vigilant and to stay safe. In the wake of the attacks in Paris and San Bernardino, I know a lot of Americans are asking, what can I do? First, as always, we have to stay vigilant. If you see something that seems suspicious, say something to law enforcement. Over the years, plots have been uncovered because someone saw something and spoke up. As I said in my speech last weekend, one of the most important things we can do is to stay true to who we are as Americans. Terrorists like ISIL are trying to divide us along lines of religion and background. That's how they stoke fear. That's how they recruit. And just as Muslims around the world have to keep rejecting any twisted interpretation of Islam, all of us have to reject bigotry in all of its forms. I'll say it again. Prejudice and discrimination helps ISIL, and it undermines our national security.
Boy, he's amazing, isn't he? He's amazing. He has directed his Attorney General, Loretta Lynch, that if there is Muslim hate speech, right, rhetoric that is hurtful to Muslims, the White House says that it will prosecute you. She says, free speech is good and all. Free speech is good and all. However, this will not be tolerated. So on one hand, the White House says, if you see something, say something. On the other hand, if you say something, you might be prosecuted if you say the wrong thing about you know who. About you know who, as Daryl Day calls them. Isn't that something? All right, I was going to give you the phone number. Instead, I'm going to give you the email address. It's Burnie at BurnieThompson.com. I'd love to hear what you have to say. It's right there. If you look right down there, Burnie at Burnie Thompson is the email, and I'd love to get your thoughts. And when we come back, I'll give you the phone number. And don't forget, if you want to watch the show live, just download Periscope on your smartphone, Periscope, and then follow me at Burnie Thompson, and you can catch the show live, or on YouTube if you go to our channel, My Freedom Radio. So we'll be right back in just a moment. Don't go anywhere.